with the season wrapping up, I feel like this is a really good segue into this other conversation that we want to have around, yes, college basketball, but I guess really more so college athletics. And actually, I'll kind of shoot it to you to break down like what the conversation was and introduce it to everybody. But I feel like it's a long overdue conversation for college athletics in general. But yeah, Jay Billis was cooking anyway. So yes, please enlighten the audience on what we're trying to get at.
He did. Essentially, with the college game day cast, Jay Billis was speaking on how the NCAA operates as a professional organization, but does not have the same sanctions as the NBA or NFL, and how that can kind of be a hindrance a little bit to the game, as well as to the student athletes that are playing the game. So, to basically, this conversation is going to be around what can the NCAA do to tighten up the lacks that they have in terms of players transferring and this amount of money, that amount of money. Like today, I saw Elliot Cadeau announce that he's re-signing with Michigan and returning. That does not sit well with me. I don't know if it's the verbiage, whatever the case may be, but I'm getting alerts for a college player that I would get for somebody re-signing with the Hawks. Like it's crazy. So that's essentially the conversation that they were having.
I think it's a couple of different things happening at once, right? You have NIL was supposed to be this thing where yes, I can get money off of my name, image, and likeness as an athlete, but that might mean me going and doing a commercial for this company, or I might go, do a autograph signing deal with this car dealership down the street, something like that. What it instead turned to was the NCAA saying, okay, you guys can get paid, and then putting zero parameters, zero guardrails up, and it just became the wild, wild west of, okay, if I got a millionaire back in my school for this one season, hey, you come get a check, you come get a check, everybody come get paid together, and then it's just like we'll figure it out later, where the rollout should have had a few more guidelines and a few more parameters to it. But I think what the NCAA wanted, which is what we're seeing now, is they wanted the government to come in and kind of save them from themselves. And so now you kind of see this conversation happening even as high as like Congress and House of Representatives and stuff like that, where they're trying to put these restrictions on how often a player can transfer, or if they have to sit out before transferring, when that was never the issue. If we really think about it, there's nobody that has been a major impact player that has transferred 2 and 3 times. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. So that part of it, you're trying to fix a problem before it becomes a problem. The real problem is they don't know how to stop the influx of cash, because at the end of the day, people have egos, and part of some of these people's ego is, I want my favorite college to be good at sport, insert here.
Yep.
So you're gonna have some dudes like Mark Cuban now deciding, okay, hey, Indiana basketball, I want y'all to be good again. Let me give y'all $15 million for the season. Or hey, Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech, I want my alma mater to be good again. Let me give y'all $30 million for the football team this season. And that really was never the intention of the rule, and now it's starting to kind of bite them in the ass.
I think Pandora's box has kind of been opened, and you cannot go back. It's AI. It's we're in a land that you know, gun laws. It's like it's so applicable to everything. Like we're so backed up in terms of how we rule over things and like how we look at it, and we're like, oh, it was like I cannot believe 20 years ago there, not even 10 years ago. Who's the Clemson coach? Justin
Dabo Swinney.
Schumacher, or what Dabo Sweeney. You know what? Dabo Sweeney. I feel like he was very adamant that like, yeah, like coaches should be getting paid and players shouldn't. And it's like, this is a corporation. Even they had to shut down the video games, which were cold, because they were like, we don't want to pay them. But they were making bank off of guys that were nameless, but the roster is there. Like, it should have been this way. They should be getting paid. But now it just muddies the waters in terms of like, we have the government trying to tell the NCAA what they need to do. For what reason? Why are we doing this? Aren't we doing bigger pressing things? Um, just it's getting bad now because now we have people that are tied to strong politics that can try and bottle this stuff up and have them talk about uh bad financial obligations and like hectic things. It's like it's a business. You just don't want to pay them. You're trying to find ways to. This is Scandal. I'm watching Scandal with Ari right now, and I'm like, Mr. President, our way out of this one. Like, I feel like the dude, season one, glasses, other lawyer dude.
I
He's
know
like,
you're talking. I know
Yeah,
you're.
damn, no,
can't keep
names.
getting away with this, and we can,
Yeah.
we can't put the rabbit back in the box. Whatever was in Pandora's box. So we're gonna have to figure this out.
Yeah, no, like agree with everything that y'all said. I think that is interesting how we've gotten to this point because we've been having the conversations like we've been talking about NIL getting out of hand. We've been talking about the transfer portal being absurd. And I think that what's interesting is I don't think anybody disagrees that there should be a distinction or there should be some separation from professional and amateur. And yes, this is what I think people were scared was going to happen, but also like this was allowed to happen. Like we didn't have to get here. Like Josh, to your point, like there was no reason why this should have been rolled out without parameters. Like nobody said, yeah, just give them money because they deserve to get paid. It was like, no, they deserve to get paid, but there should still be prerequisites for how they get this money, how much they get, things of that nature, because the business practices of all of this were already there. All this stuff was already, a lot of this was already happening under the table.
Yeah.
People was already getting influenced by one form or another to come to schools and things of that nature. All type of underhand commitments and what have you. So the business of it, the practice of it all, that's all been there. Just now that money is involved, and now there's a paper trail to all the things that are happening. And then on top of that, the publicity of it isn't positive because now we're seeing how it's impacting, yes, the institution and the business, but also these student athletes like personal lives now because that's on full display and you can't hide it anymore. Now we're like you said, Mr. President, come help me. Now it's like now you're trying to get all this assistance. It's like, no, you kind of wanted this monster to be created. So again, you could have an excuse not to pay athletes. And the last thing I'll say, and the other interesting part is I do think for those that are playing collegiate sports and don't plan to go pro, right? But they're making a certain amount of money off of NIL. The adjustment to what they will make in reality if they just get a regular job in comparison to like playing a professional sport, it's like, are you setting somebody up for failure because you're putting them at a certain place and then forcing them to have to drop essentially if they aren't going on the trajectory to being pro? Or like there's a lesson in that, and the message of it can be applicable in a lot of different ways, but is this avoidable? And I feel like a lot of what's happening is avoidable. So I think the scary thing is I don't think we're going to see the worst of it either. I don't think we're there yet.
No. I think what we're gonna see in like probably the next 5 years at some point, you've already won. Shame on the NCAA also because they have never put a rule in place saying that this money has to come directly from the schools that are benefiting directly from the athletes. They just said the dudes can get paid. They never specified that it had to be from a specific source. So that's problem number one. But what you're going to see happen at some point in the next few years is you're going to have an athlete, whether he's a highly touted freshman or maybe he's a college football player that is such a star that he decides, you know what? Yeah, y'all started me out, at this school, y'all paying me XYZ, but I'm actually gonna go here and I'm gonna do it in the middle of the season.
Yep.
And I think that's gonna be the straw that breaks somebody's back because you're gonna then have a team that has invested heavily into a player. You're gonna then have a school that is expecting to get some type of return on that investment, and that player is gonna dip out mid-year. and everybody who's holding the bag is going to be upset, but the player is still going to get everything that he wants out of it because the next school is willing to sign the check.
And we kind of saw it in college football with Nico Iamalava.
Yep.
Forgive me if I'm butchering his name, but essentially him going to UCLA and UCLA quarterback going to Tennessee. That was before the season, but I think you're right, Josh. If that happens in the middle of a season, all hell is going to break loose.
Yeah.
And that's why I do feel like having the rule of you have to sit out when you transfer a year, you know what I mean? I think that's more of a deterrent for a player to go, okay, let me just chill here then so I don't lose a year of eligibility because at the end of the day, that's kind of a hindrance to the player having to sit out. But I don't know how you reintroduce that in the era of the transfer portal.
So,
Well, I
my bad.
think.
My
Oh
bad.
no, I was just gonna say you have to probably now put some type of monetary penalty on it. Like,
That's a
hey, your first transfer is free. You can go
mhm.
wherever you want. You don't have to sit out a year. But the minute you decide to transfer a second time, now whatever NIL deal you had got to get cut by X%. You might,
Yeah.
instead of having to sit out a full season, you have to sit out a certain number of games, something like that. They're going to find a way.
Mhm.
They're going to find a way. It's like kids bowling. They have to put the bars up, the rails up. We cannot keep throwing these gutter balls. We need to find a way to shut this down.
No, that's a no, that's a great analogy. So what is like what's the separator? Like how do you keep it how do you keep the distinction? Because at this point, you got high school athletes basically having 4 years of free agency if they want. Maybe even five, maybe even six, maybe even seven. Not five, not six, not seven. Like you got all these years of eligibility essentially, and not even the years of eligibility, but now you have the freedom to say, okay, yeah, I went to, one school this year and just follow the money basically. And yeah, like, 18 to 22-year-olds having 4 years of free agency and the pros don't even get to have free agency every season. You know what I'm saying? That would be wild. That would be crazy. So in y'all minds, what do y'all think the separator is, the thing that keeps it distinct between the two?
NBA and college.
Yes. Just pros and amateur in general, I guess, but with that being the leading reference.
I don't even know if I want to say maturity because there's
Right.
age in the NBA too.
Well, I'm saying from yes, from the structure of business standpoint.
Speed of play, like pace of play, like
Yeah, that's it.
that's
Skill level,
yeah, like the risk. I don't know.
veterans minimum,
Is
and
there
maybe
more
a
of a
players
risk?
association.
Yeah, like
Look,
risk reward. I feel like
Yeah.
you get a scholarship in a college. I don't know.
Because
Like,
if you're hurt in college, I feel like, okay, you hear people say, oh, I lost my scholarship, I lost this and that. You get hurt in the pros, you're at least protected by the Players Association agreement,
Yeah.
whatever. So that's probably the difference. So now I feel like the NCAA needs to implement something where, at least your scholarship is protected. If you're not getting your NIL money, whatever, the least you can do is just go for free.
do they get health insurance after they get hurt?
I don't know. I don't
So
know.
yes and no. The insurance is technically the school's insurance,
Oh, okay.
but it covers the player for whatever season they're in. So, like if you know, a player at Mizzou gets hurt, he is not necessarily providing his own insurance when he goes and has surgery. The school is providing that insurance on his behalf because he's a member of whatever football, basketball team, whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
yeah. And I think even it's funny because like y'all answers are kind of like speaking to my point of like, I don't think there is going to be any separation anymore, which I think getting into the weeds of that conversation isn't important because at the end of the day, college basketball or college athletics is a big enough business to where you can't try to make the argument that these players and student athletes shouldn't be being paid, but it just also is the reality that you should put the regulations on it that you do have for the professional leagues, and probably even more regulations and more not boundaries, but like more protections or whatever the case may be. But treat it like the monster that it can potentially become. And we're seeing it become it because there was no preparation, even though we knew this was a very strong possibility from the jump because this was part of why you didn't want to do it. But yeah.
It's a developmental league with an ace structure.
Mhm.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And even then, like we say developmental, but for most athletes, they only have so many hours they can be at practice or in a gym, like by
Hmm.
law or by like school policy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
without getting their athletic department in some type of trouble. So like the only real solution that I can really like start to wrap my mind around is that you have to at some point you're gonna have to tie the ability to transfer to the money in some way.
Mhm.
Because what it really is, it is free agency for the dudes who are never going to be able to be good enough to get to like major free agency as a pro. AJ DeBanza is not going to have college free agency because guess what? He's going to be the top pick in the draft, probably, right?
Yeah.
But somebody like Yaxel from Michigan, hey, I started my career off at UAB. I'm trying to go get a payday at Michigan before maybe going late lottery, maybe going late first round. Like it's the NIL money is really being hoarded by the dudes who are not going to make that level of money as professionals. And that's probably why you see so much of the Wild Wild West action of guys moving around.
That's a great point. And honestly, I can't never be mad at somebody for taking a guarantee, right? So like
Right.
if I'm guaranteed to get a payday now because I'm not guaranteed for the payday later, like I could go maybe get into the league and maybe have a situation work out for me where I'm able to, make double of what I made in college. But the reality for most guys is if you don't do anything on that rookie contract, 3-4 years tops anyway, if not shorter than
Yes.
that. So what the smart person probably would do is take the payday in college, have some of that stash. So if it don't pan out, like you should have a nice cushion to fall back on relatively. But yeah, no, Josh, I think you hit it right on the head. And I think that, I mean, for a certain group of players, hey man, have a feast, bro. Like have a ball. Take advantage. I cannot be mad at taking a guaranteed payday if it's available to you and you know that's your best shot at it. So, because a lot of those guys may not be going overseas either. So, like, college might be it from the standpoint of their like athletic career. But man, insane, insane.